All right, so in this video, I'm going to be going over a summer 2026 market update. I'm going to tell you the good and the bad of what's going on here in the Tuscaloosa market locally. I'm Phil Duke Jr. This is the Living in Tuscaloosa County YouTube channel. I'm a real estate broker here in the local area with eXp Realty. I've been living here since 1996. And, a couple years ago, I created this channel because I felt like there wasn't a great resource to know what it was really like to live here, right? Like what's going on here and what are the locals saying and what's going on with real estate here. You can certainly shop Zillow for for houses, and you can get bedrooms, baths, and square footage and price, but it can't really tell you a lot of the things that we cover here in this channel. Local perception and local real estate advice, and so that's why I created this channel. So the first thing I want you to realize, I have just a couple bullet points here that I wrote down for notes on this video. The first thing you got to realize about a real estate market in general is it's hyper local, right? And what I mean by that is it certainly helps and is beneficial, I think, to kind of know what's going on like nationwide or even like statewide. But real estate is hyper local. What's going on in Tuscaloosa is very likely, at least a little bit different, could be greatly different than what you are experiencing in your hometown, wherever you're watching these videos from. And so again, another reason why I created this channel. And if you're watching these videos, there's a good chance that you might be thinking about making a move to the Tuscaloosa area. Alabama is a buyer beware state. So, you really need a real estate professional, whether it's me or somebody else, helping you through that process and navigating those laws. I'd love to be the one, interviewing for that job. You can click the link below and find my calendar link, and you can set up a time for us to have a one-on-one phone call or Zoom video chat, whichever you prefer. And that QR code down in the bottom will also pull up my calendar link. And when you reach out to me, you're talking to me. It's going to be me and you, not my assistant, not some other random agent that works for me. I've got a team of 30-something agents here that works in the local area. But when you reach out to me, it's going to be me and you, okay? So what's going on in Tuscaloosa? I'm going to go over the good and the bad. So number one, it is hyper local. Okay, number two, right now, I would say Tuscaloosa is more of a fair market, right? It's not really a true seller's market, and it's also not truly a buyer's market, right? So, several years ago, it was basically a seller's market, right? When COVID happened and kind of post COVID for 2 or 3 years there, most sellers were putting their houses on the market. They didn't have to do much to make them ready for the market. They didn't have to clean them up. They didn't have to paint, change that awful paint color in the kitchen. They just put up a sign and they got multiple offers. That is not really happening very much today. There are some exceptions to that, right? There's certain neighborhoods, and so when I say hyper local, just because I say that's not happening overall, doesn't mean that there's some neighborhoods and that there's some price points where that is still a thing, a little bit. In fact, I listed a house 2 or 3 weeks ago. I did a video walkthrough. It was a 5-bedroom house for 4,099, just a little over $400,000. That was a multiple offer kind of situation, right? It was a sought after school zone, a sought after neighborhood, and a sought after price point. And so we kind of had the ching, 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 all three of those kind of lined up. And that did turn into a multiple offer scenario. But it's also kind of fair for buyers right now, right? There's a little bit more inventory on the market in that neighborhood that I'm talking about. There was like 10 or 11 listings on the market when I listed that one, and mine sold right away. The others have kind of opened up their eyes and like, hey, maybe we need to reduce our prices a little bit. Mine was the lowest price one in the neighborhood. So that certainly helped as well. And it kind of opened up those sellers' eyes. Like, if we want to sell, we're going to have to come off these prices a little bit. So if you are considering making that move to Tuscaloosa or buying a property here right now in the summer of 2026, there's probably a good chance you can negotiate a little bit. Okay, so that's number three, is that buyers have wiggle room because it's fair, because there's listings literally hitting the market that aren't getting much activity and they're getting no offers. I'm talking about 30, 60, 90 days on the market, have not gotten a single offer. So if you find the right situation, right? Not every seller is truly motivated, unfortunately. There's a ton of listings on the market right now in this area, and I have agents, that I work with across the country in other markets, and there's a lot of sellers that just have their house on the market, and they're like, "Make me move. If I get this number, I'll sell. If I don't get this number, I won't sell." Okay, and it can be hard to know, like, who's in that crowd versus who's in the, like, I've got this thing on the market and I absolutely have to sell. I'm not saying they're behind on mortgage payments or, in pre-foreclosure or some kind of dire situation, right? They've lost their job, they got laid off, they got hurt, they got injured, they can't go to work anymore, which, by the way, like 60 to 70% of foreclosures are due to medical reasons, right? Somebody gets hurt, somebody gets sick. Most people live paycheck to paycheck, and you miss one paycheck and you get behind, and it can be hard to get caught up, right? So you don't know right now who's who. You may have to make, one, two, three offers on three different properties to find somebody willing to negotiate and haggle a little bit with you. But I will tell you, the last couple buyers that I have helped, again, people that watch this channel come in for a day, we'll meet at their hotel, or we'll meet at a local, barbecue place for lunch. We'll spend the day out looking at properties. The last couple people that I've met in that scenario were able to get a decent amount off the price and was able to get the seller to pay most, if not all, of the closing costs. Okay? Because the market in Tuscaloosa is a fair market, right? You can't just put up a sign in the yard and get multiple offers and stick to your price if you want to get it sold in this market, right? So that's number four, is sellers are still selling, right? This is not like in 2010, only 1 out of 17 houses that hit the market actually sold. So 17 houses would hit the market. They'd be on the market for 3 to 6 months, and only 1 out of 17 would sell. We are not in that kind of market in Tuscaloosa, right? Is there more inventory on the market? Yes. In some of the bigger subdivisions where there's a lot of houses, a lot of homeowners in that area, a lot of parcels in there. Are there a lot of times right now multiple houses for sale in the same subdivision? Yes. But that does not mean that sellers are not able to sell in this market. They can't be lazy about it, right? I can remember back in 2000, I'm thinking like 2016, 2017, 2018, right? Prices were just starting to kind of come back up from like the 2007, 2008 recession, and people were finally able to kind of like sell their property without losing money, right? And because that was happening, people would sell their house, they needed to buy one. But we still, at that point, we were spending a lot of time with sellers at that point, like pre-staging the property. Like, let's really take our time to clean this thing up. Let's go to Walmart or Lowe's or Home Depot. Let's buy 10 to 20 large moving boxes. Pack up everything that you don't need, and let's throw it in some boxes and put those boxes in the garage, put them in the attic, put them in a storage unit, whatever the case might be. Let's paint what needs to be painted, right? Like, let's present a move-in ready appearance. For a couple years, sellers didn't have to do that. And if sellers are putting their homes on the market without doing those things right now, you'll see, if you come into Tuscaloosa and we go look at properties, you will be able to tell a big difference between the ones that are truly move-in ready and the ones that probably need $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 worth of work to truly make them move-in ready, like turnkey. And the turnkey properties are what's selling right now. If your house just needs a little bit of paint, if your house needs a little bit of flooring, if it needs a little bit of decluttering, you're going to pay the penalty for that. Okay? So sellers are still able to sell, but they can't be lazy, is what I wrote down. Maybe lazy isn't a good word. I don't know. I struggle with gentleness sometimes. I think sellers just got used to a couple years. Like every house that hit the market sold, even if they didn't have to do anything. Like you could decide on Sunday afternoon, I want to sell this house, put it on the market on Monday with no prep work, and it would sell. That's not happening anymore. If it does, it's rare. I'll say that. I don't want to say it doesn't happen. I would say it's rare that happens. So again, as a buyer, maybe that's a win for you to be able to not have to make a decision sight unseen, right? To not have to be in a multiple offer scenario on every single property, right? And then a lot of our sellers right now, this might be something that would interest you depending on your situation, but we've started working with some institutional buyers, like some hedge funds and some real estate investment trusts. And you can go to phildukejr.com, phildukejr.com. That link is below as well. If you are looking at making a move to Tuscaloosa and you've got a house, in your current home, your current hometown, your current city that you need to sell, you can go to phildukejr.com and you can enter your property address and see what kind of cash offers your property will qualify for. And that's been a great help this year. We've had people that absolutely need to sell, and we could get them top dollar if they were willing to wait a little while. But sometimes you just want to get it over with. I get it. Um, I've got a family from New York that's moving here in the next couple of weeks. They decided to go that route and just get that house paid for and move to Alabama and not even have to deal with that property anymore. And that investor group is going to go in and get the property ready to get on the market and resell it and make a little bit of money, not a ton. These aren't like flipper type people that are like paying 50% of what the house is worth. But that's an option as well. And some of our sellers this year have decided to take that option just because they wanted the certainty of, I want to know for sure my house is sold before I make this move. So that's something you can check out as well. And then the last thing about this current market, I want you to realize that every market has winners and losers. Okay, so a couple years ago, people were saying the market was so great, right? Like every house that hit the market was selling and was getting multiple offers. A lot of times those offers were sight unseen. I can remember at that time, like, one of my agents had a listing and I think we got like 12 offers on it within the first 48 hours. And I can remember going into the conference room with that agent and going through all 12 offers. We had them all laid out on the table. We, analyzed them. We came up with the pros and cons of each one. We came up with the math of each one so that when the seller came in that day, we could go over that. So, people say that was a great market, but it wasn't a great market if you were trying to buy in that kind of market, right? You fall in love with a house, you put in a great offer, only to find out that another offer, beat you out for some reason, or the seller just decided to take, more of the sure thing. They took the cash offer that could close in 14 days, and you weren't in a position like most people. You weren't in a position to pay cash for a house. You needed to get a mortgage, and so you loved the house, you loved the neighborhood, you were willing to pay full price with it. Everybody says that was a great market. It wasn't great if you were trying to buy, right? So, in every market, somebody's winning. It's either buyers, sellers, renters, or investors. Those are the four categories that I look at when I'm analyzing a market, and right now, sellers are still able to sell. Buyers are able to buy, and they're able to negotiate some closing costs and negotiate the price a little bit, negotiate some repairs, because the sellers know if I let this person walk away, there's no telling when or if I'm going to find another one, right? So if I was going to say there's a winner in this market, I would say it's buyers, but it's slightly. sellers are still able to sell. This is not 2010 where 1 out of 17 houses that hits the market is selling. And so that's where we're at. Summer of 2026. We are in the last week of June right now. It's starting to get hot here in Tuscaloosa, and the real estate market is still going strong. When other markets, when other parts of the country have big ups and downs, Tuscaloosa, for the most part, just kind of stays steady. And that's what's going on in the Tuscaloosa real estate market in June of 2026.